Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're basically building a complete training manual for coaches who want to develop a powerful, consistent topspin backhand. We're going to break down every single component from the ground up to help you forge a shot that doesn't just survive rallies, it absolutely dominates them.
So let's kick things off with this powerful idea from Venus Williams. The backhand, it's not just some rally shot. It's a wall. It's a weapon. It's the shot that looks your opponent in the eye and says, there are no easy points here. So the real question is, how do we build a backhand that lives up to that? Let's get into it.
Okay, here's our roadmap for building this thing from scratch. We're going to cover everything a coach needs to know, from the second your player picks up the racket to the specific drills that build elite-level muscle memory. And we're going to start with the absolute fundamentals.
All right, first things first. It all starts with how the player holds the racket. I mean, if you get this wrong, you are fighting an uphill battle for the rest of the stroke. So let's get this foundation rock solid. So you've got two main schools of thought here, right? You've got the two-hander, perfected by guys like Agassi all the way to Djokovic, which combines grips for insane leverage and spin. Then you have the one-hander, that classic beautiful shot from Federer or Wawrinka, which uses a pure Eastern grip that keeps the wrist super stable right through contact. And this is huge. It's something that so many coaches and players completely overlook: grip pressure. Choking the racket kills your racket head speed, it kills your feel. You want it firm, sure, but relaxed. Think a 3 out of 10. That's what allows for that fluid wrist action that generates that heavy, dipping topspin.
Okay, grips sorted. Now let's talk about the real engine. Because the power, it doesn't come from the arms. It comes from the ground up. This is where you get effortless power.
We call this the kinetic engine, and that's exactly what it is. It is the true source of power for any ground stroke. It's what separates a ball that you just kind of push back from a penetrating, heavy shot. You look at players like Sinner and Alcaraz, they are absolute masters of this chain reaction that starts with their feet and explodes at the racket tip.
So how does this engine actually fire up? Well, it's a simple three-part sequence. It all starts with getting low, loading up those legs. Then comes the coil, where you create that separation between your hips and shoulders to store up all that elastic energy. And finally, you unleash it by driving forward, transferring that weight from back to front right through the shot.
In this concept right here, the Russian twist, that's the secret sauce for that explosive power you see from guys like Nadal. By turning the shoulders more than the hips, you literally create a rubber band effect in your core. The body just naturally wants to snap back to neutral, and that snap is what accelerates the racket like a whip through the ball.
Okay, let's take all that theory and apply it to the most popular backhand in the game today, the two-hander. This is a shot that is built on stability and pure rotational force.
Now here's a mental game changer for your players. For a righty, the easiest way to think about the two-hander is that it's just a lefty forehand. Seriously, that top hand, your non-dominant one, that's the accelerator. It controls the swing path, it creates the spin. You see it perfectly with Djokovic or Nishikori. The bottom hand is really just there for the ride, for guidance and stability.
Now the real magic here, the part that so many people miss, is in step 2, that little top-bottom-top motion with the hands. As the player gets ready to swing, that top hand actively pulls the racket down, dropping the racket head way below the ball. This is what creates the space for that massive low-to-high swing you need for topspin. It's subtle, but it is absolutely critical.
All right, now for the classic, the beautiful one-hander. The mechanics here are a little different, a bit more linear, less rotational, but they rely on the exact same principles of using your body and creating leverage. So here's the big paradox of the one-hander. The best ones are actually two-handed for as long as possible. The pros, they use their non-hitting hand on the throat of the racket to guide it back, to guide it through the drop. It ensures total stability and control right up until that moment of explosion. See, that non-hitting hand isn't just along for the ride. It's got a vital job. It guides the racket down for a controlled drop, and then boom, at the moment of release, it pulls back to act as a counterbalance. This is what keeps the player's body sideways through the hit and stops them from opening up too early and leaking all that power. You ever wonder why that non-hitting arm is so important? It really just comes down to basic physics, the law of opposite force. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So as the racket arm explodes forward, that non-hitting arm has to pull back with that same energy. That's what keeps the body stable and channels every ounce of power into the shot. Okay, here we are. The moment of truth, the impact zone. All that preparation, all that coiling and dropping, it all leads to this one split second. Listen up, because if you take one single thing away for creating topspin, this is it. You have to close the racket face. Just before you make contact, as that racket is dropping below the ball, the strings have to be tilted down towards the ground. This closed position is what lets you swing aggressively up and forward, brushing the back of the ball.
You see, when that face is closed, it forces you to swing up, to brush up the back of the ball. That is what imparts that heavy, dipping topspin. It lets players hit with incredible power, but the spin pulls the ball down safely inside the lines. It's the best of both worlds.
And the finish, while it's not one size fits all, it really shows you the different goals of the two shots. The one-hander's finish is all about structure, about maintaining that wrist angle for pinpoint accuracy. The two-hander, on the other hand, is just pure extension, driving that top hand right through the ball towards the target for max power and depth.
All right, we have covered a ton of theory. Now for the fun part. Let's get on the court with some drills you can use with your players tomorrow. These are designed to build the exact feelings and movements we've been talking about.
This first one, the calf knock, it's all about feel. It's not about hitting the ball hard. It's about teaching the body kinesthetically just how low that racket needs to drop to create topspin, without the player even having to look down. It builds that feeling of a deep, powerful swing loop.
And this drill right here, this isolates the true engine of the two-handed backhand, that top hand. It forces that non-dominant arm to do all the heavy lifting. It builds strength, it builds coordination, and it really drills home that key idea that the two-hander is just a forehand with your other arm.
So there you have it. By breaking the backhand down into these core components, the grip, the body, the swing path, the impact, you now have a system. You have a blueprint to build a reliable, powerful weapon for any player you work with. It's a project for sure, but it's one with a clear path to success. The only question is, where will you begin?